Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, The Risks Worth Taking with Eldon Jobe. We talk about just winging it in his first business, but still managing to do well, raising £1.2 million in VC money to get a business going, and how he's still able to do a wheelie and bunny hops on his son's BMX.
Eldon is a serial entrepreneur who has co-founded several tech and recruitment businesses over the last 20 years. From recruiting in software and tech to founding an IT recruitment company, Eldon's journey then took him on to co-found a software company designed to help the recruitment industry. After several years of working in software, Eldon got the urge to return to recruitment and co-founded a niche recruitment business specialising in IT infrastructure, software and cybersecurity. In every business Eldon has been involved in, there was one recurring theme. The mysterious dark art of cybersecurity was always both expensive and difficult to get right, yet was becoming increasingly important and overly complicated. This became the driving force behind Eldon co-founding Melius Cyber. So, Eldon, thank you ever so much for finally agreeing to come on the Inspiration North podcast. How are you today?
Finally agreeing. I'm very good, thank you. I like that, finally agreeing. Sounds ominous.
Yeah, you've been on the list for a while.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Awesome. So the question we start off with is the same question we ask all of our guests is, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yes, absolutely I did. I knew what I wanted to be from the age of 4 years old, which was a fighter pilot.
And how is your fighter pilot career now?
Yeah, it didn't go according to plan. I think I always knew I was never going to be a fighter pilot. It was just something I've always wanted to do. But I've worn glasses since the age of 2.5. I think it was something to do with my measles vaccination or polio vaccine or something like that. But that's when it was noticed, whether it's connected to it or not. So, yeah, I just always said, well, this is what I'm going to do. I remember in a careers lesson at school, and they asked, and I said, put my hand up, a fast jet fighter pilot, and everyone just laughed. Oh. It's like, why are you laughing? Don't get it. So I applied for the Air Force when I was 17, and they said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a pilot. I went, right, okay. And I kind of failed at the first hurdle, which was the eye test. So thought, maybe I should do something different.
Watch more Top Gun.
Yeah, well, I love Top Gun. I'm gutted that the new Top Gun is having to be delayed.
Oh,
we're excited for that.
Okay, so you fell at the first hurdle, couldn't be a fighter pilot. What was plan B?
Well, I did think maybe I could be an optician and help people who can't be fighter pilots. Oh. But that involved a lot of studying at school, and that was never really me. So I honestly didn't have a clue at that point. I thought, well, that's me over. Don't know what I'm going to do. And eventually one day got a job in sales. And that's kind of where it went from. But, yeah, it's a big change. When that is something you've always wanted to do and you can't do it, you just think, well, I was never going to be a doctor or a dentist or a solicitor. So I didn't really understand what else there was that would be, an inspiring job that could either make a difference or earn good money. So I think I just remember traveling around Europe and getting a phone call from an agency saying I'd got a job, so I had to come home.
That sucked.
That's all right. Been there a while.
So what did that lead you into then?
That first job was a sales job at BT, at the call centre in Gosforth. I think, although I can't prove it, that there was 1,200 people started. There's no windows in the building. It's not a great place to work. You're not allowed to have any sort of personality. But I think that I was the first person ever to sell anything in that call center out of 1,200 people.
You out.
Yeah.
What did you sell?
Probably call waiting.
It's funny. That's not even a thing nowadays, is it? It's like, no, people don't call people anymore, do they?
Well, it'd just be included in the tariff, isn't it? It's on your mobile phone. We had to sell call waiting, second line. I was excellent at selling it. People a second line, but who would even think about that now?
Maybe a second broadband line.
Well, yeah. Dial up in those days. That's how old I am.
In those days.
Yes.
Carrier pigeon.
When you had to, you actually had to ask, didn't you? Like, can I go on the internet? No one needs to use the phone at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And then somebody would ring you just as you got in. It's like, no.
Yeah, nightmare.
Okay. So how long were you at BT?
I was at BT for a year. Within that, that first day, week, month, year, I was sort of top sales. And then someone, I always remember this. This is why I left, actually, because someone complained about me, said I'd sold them probably call waiting when I hadn't. So they hadn't agreed to buy it. But all calls are supposed to be recorded, but they're not. Just randomly are they recorded. So anyway, they said, right, well, someone's complained, so you're going to lose all your commission and you're going to lose your chance of getting promoted for 6 months. I was like, what? But that's not true. So then they had these breakout pods. So they just said, look, go and get a coffee, calm down. So I went into this breakout pod and I heard my voice. And they were using one of my calls to train new people on how to sell the product. I was like, well, how can you be using me to train people and yet you're saying all of this? So I was just, I've had enough. So I left. I applied for another job.
And BT's never been the same since.
No.
Has it?
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't think they care, do they?
Absolutely their loss. So what was next?
I went to work for Sage. I thought Sage would be a great company to work for, but I didn't really enjoy it. So I don't know whether that says anything about the companies I work for, or says more about me working for people. Yeah, that was a funny environment. Not saying anything about Sage or whether they're a good company or not. I'm sure they're a good company to work for, but the sales team at the time was going through a lot of transition, and it was very hard to promote from within the team. So you really didn't have any prospects, and I think that's what I didn't enjoy about it. So I saw a funny advert for a job, and because it was funny, I applied for it and got it, and moved to London, and got into recruitment. And that was me leaving Newcastle for a while. And it was also me learning business, learning more about how to, not rather than just sell. Because I always thought sales was just, it's not a good job. It's like slimy second-hand cars, or which not slimy, you can't say that, but like what is selling? There's that program, isn't there? White Gold. Have you ever watched it? Where they're selling PVC windows. So the PVC is the white gold, but it's all hard sales techniques. It's trying to con people. It's hilarious. It's on Netflix. But that's what I thought sales was. But then it was when I moved to London, I realized everything is sales. Business is sales. So I think I learned how to become a businessman rather than just a salesman, and start understanding that I have pride in what I was doing. Maybe that was part of the problem before. I didn't really have pride in what I was doing. I just needed a job.
How different was London to Newcastle? And
it's a bit more hardcore. That's the first thing I remember. Trying to speak to my boss about a new nightclub opening and being told, is that really appropriate to discuss in the office? Oh, right. Yeah, you've got to do work, haven't we? And the whole culture shock of how I was working in Newcastle with the teams around me to how I was working in London. But I loved it. I loved that sort of getting in at 8, half 8, but being there till sometimes 11 o'clock in the evening. But usually wouldn't often leave, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, wouldn't often leave before 9 o'clock.
Wow.
But I liked it. I liked the fact that you were being pushed and challenged and earning good money and proving something to yourself all the time. I mean, I was in my 20s. I couldn't do that now. But at that age, you it's just easier, isn't it?
So did that last for a long time? Was it, if you're making good money, and London's quite a vibrant place, isn't it? Lots of places to eat and go out. How long did you stay in London for?
So I don't know exactly. I was at one company, and then I was, well, they say headhunted. I mean, technically I was, but it sounds much more grand to say you're headhunted, doesn't it? So I went to another company to try and turn around a division within there, which I did. And then I realized that I could probably do this myself. And I think my problem was I was never really good at working for people and being told what to do. I mean, I even remember when I was working in America, I had two jobs, one as a lifeguard and one working on go-karts in a theme park. And one of the bosses, who was younger than me, asked me to carry something back from when we were closing up back to the office. And I was like, well, why do you carry it? Because he was younger than me. And then it was kind of pointed out to me that, he was just asking me to carry something and I kind of had to I realize that now. It's not like being in school. So just understanding that there's structures and doing what you're told. Although I did that much better when I moved to London and realized someone's telling you to do something and they've done it and it works. Just do it and repeat it and learn from it.
I have to ask you the question. It wasn't a watermelon, was it? He asked you to carry.
No, why?
Well, you're in America. It was like a theme park, Some Dirty Dancing, Eldon. You need to. Yes.
Right.
I'm literally sitting here with it's a mug which says I carried a watermelon.
Oh, right. Well, I missed that quote. I have seen the film, but I missed that quote.
Oh well, never mind. Okay, so when did you go to America? Was that
was beforehand? It was before working. I went over to put up marquees in Minneapolis, which sounds easy, but was actually really hard work. Especially if you've got a hangover quite a lot of the time, because you're reaching, it's just hard physical work. But it was fine, it was good. And then I kind of left that direction and headed a long way south to Myrtle Beach to work as a lifeguard.
Cool. What age were you then?
22, probably. I was old enough to drink in America, so I must have been 21 or 22.
Yeah, there's absolutely no point going across.
Yeah.
Till you're old enough to drink. Okay, so going back to London, what made you come home?
I think it was temporary. I wanted to set my own business up, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I need to do it cost effectively. And because all my family was in Newcastle, it was easy. I could just come back, set a business up, and then as it grows, then get office space and move back up to London, which would have been a good idea. I think the staff that you can hire in London, the work ethic in London is very different to here. And the work I was doing was all in London, even though I was doing it from Newcastle. But I never went back because I realized £10 lasts so much longer in Newcastle than it does in London. And you can get on your motorbike and you can be out of the city and in the countryside within minutes. So you're not stuck in traffic all the time. You've got a rugby club, a cricket club, and a golf club on your doorstep. And all of those sort of things just gradually kept me here. Good lifestyle. Whether it would have been the right move to actually go back to London and build a company there and hire staff there and maybe work with people I'd already worked with, probably would have been a better move, but no regrets.
So recruitment business up in Newcastle?
Yep, recruitment business in Newcastle, but recruiting along the M4 corridor, Thames Valley, and then into London, the city, and then we were placing contractors all across Europe, in the European Parliament, down to Sophia Antipolis, which is south of France, the Silicon Valley of Europe. It was good. Enjoyed it. Had a small team with about 12 staff. The best staff I hired were the ones that knew nothing about recruitment or anything, and I just trained them from scratch the way I learned. And my word was basically, that's how you do it. It got more difficult when I started hiring, because the problem was no one knew who we were, because we were in Newcastle, but we recruited down south. So the other recruiters around here had no idea who we were. And then I just thought, right, to grow faster, I'll hire ex-recruiters or from other recruitment businesses. And that's where it got a little bit difficult because they had their own ways of doing things. And it was very difficult to teach them new things. I could make them better, but they wouldn't listen. There was one girl I hired who was absolutely excellent. And I could have worked, but there was nothing I could tell her to change anything. To be fair, though, she did really well. So I can't knock what she did for the business.
How long did you keep going with that, Eldon?
I think that company was about 9-10 years, something like that. Yeah. And then kind of got itchy feet. I should have sold that business, actually. Yeah, that was probably a mistake. I had a chance to sell it and it was good money. It was into 7 figures. Whether in the end you get that or not, because you just don't know, when you quote the price and then it comes down to all negotiating, but it still would have been good money. And I wanted to move into something else. But I didn't, because I thought, well, it's making good money. Why do I need to sell it? I didn't have that mindset then, because when I set the business up, I didn't know what I was doing. I just didn't have a clue. I'd never run a business. I'd never hired my own staff. It was all I was just winging it. But I guess you are when you start your first business. And every day I was learning something new, a new challenge. Yeah, I probably should have sold it and then realized that money. Instead, I tried to get someone to run it. But that was probably, their heart wasn't in it. So even before that point, it had kind of gone in the wrong direction. And then the other company I was trying to start up was a software business within recruitment.
Okay, so you're now juggling a startup, an established organization.
Yeah, so the new startup was a software business selling to recruitment companies. So it was my way of getting out of recruitment, but still using the knowledge that I'd learned. And that was a good business. Really enjoyed it. And it's amazing what I'd learned from the last business or what I learned in the new business that I wish I'd known in the first business that I set up. And that first business would have still been going, or I would have sold it. There's so many things I would have done differently if I'd known what I started learning by setting this new business up and having a business partner. So I had no business partner in the first business. And that would be my advice to anybody. If you're going to start a business up, try and do something in an industry that you know, and work with some peers that you've worked with and trust, that are all very good. Because I think if 2 or 3 of us had started that business and all been in London, we'd all have been high billers ourselves, so we'd all have been making good money for the business. We'd all understand what makes a good recruiter, and we'd be able to grow that business. But I would always say, don't really do it with friends, because you may well fall out with them. But if it's people who are work colleagues and you maybe become friends through work rather than old school friends you've known from years, then it's not so bad. But I think it makes a huge difference. So the second business I started up was with someone who had been he provided my recruitment software, actually. And he came to me and asked if, said he was contacting 2 or 3 of his more successful clients to put some money in, and he wanted to grow that business to become a cloud company. The way the industry was changing, recruitment software wasn't really in the cloud at the time. So I just said, yeah, interested. Who else have you spoken to? And he said, well, no one yet. And I said, well, okay, I don't think you're asking for enough money, and I'll give you the figure that was a lot more than he was asking for if you don't speak to anyone else. So, okay, that sounds good. So we met up, and I put a bit of money into it, and then we raised £1.2 million in VC money to get it going, and it was doing really well. I really enjoyed that company. But again, what I'm doing now, what I know now from the company I'm doing now, if I'd known certain things about marketing and online sales, we could have grown that other business even further and even quicker. Yeah, so we built the cloud software, and we were selling it well. We were invested in. The problem with investors is they always want you to grow. We had really nice investors, but they want you to grow. And the money that we had was European funded. I mean, my memory may be a little bit hazy on this, but I seem to remember Brexit vote being a massive kick in the nuts for us, because that's where our next round of funding would have come from, even though it would needed to be joint with another investment company. Our initial investors when they had no more funds, everything got put on hold. So that became a little bit of an issue. We had to restructure that business. So the business didn't do as well as it could have done. I mean, it's a great product. It just needed more money and more tech invested in it. Had a good team, really user-friendly CRM system with some good, at the time, I had some good AI and ML, so artificial intelligence, machine learning tech built into it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a real learning curve because it was totally different working with someone, getting investment, and working with more commercial focused accountants. So whereas I think my other company, just the accountant wasn't commercial enough to be actually helping me and giving me good advice. I mean, I didn't realize, I mean, it sounds so daft now, but I didn't realize that every visit I went to and drove to visit a client, I could claim mileage for my car. It just sounds obvious, but no one told me. I was just a kid trying to work out what I was doing. So yeah, just simple advice and things like that are very important.
Okay. So you left the software business?
Yes, eventually. Yeah, with not having the right amount of funding, and my business partner, co-founder, wanted to go in different directions. Ultimately, we restructured the business so there was no investment in it anymore. And then I exited the business. I exited it last year. And in the meantime, I had started another recruitment business up. I thought, let's get back into recruitment. But obviously, it was cyber recruitment, tech, software. So we're doing really well. I was quite enjoying it again, the challenge of doing that. But we were doing quite well with only a very small number of customers. So we're just growing it slowly and working out where we wanted to take the business and what we were going to do with it. And I'd also, in doing so, because it was in cyber, we'd reached out to someone who had an idea of building a cyber company. So we was like, well, that sounds really interesting. So we had some talks, and then we kind of formed this cyber company. And then the world went crazy, didn't it? The world went crazy. And then we all got our conspiracy theories about that. There's loads of them.
It's almost which crazy you're talking about. There's so many crazies.
Well, there is, isn't there? Well, I'll probably be careful what I say. But no, the world went crazy with some virus, COVID-19, and just put a stop to everything for a while. And the sector that we're recruiting in, and the fact we hardly had any clients, just had a small group of clients, made that very difficult for us. But what it did do was gave us more time to focus on the cyber business, which, to be fair, is where my heart is really, doing something very different. And in all the companies that I've been working for, and I'd started up, founded, co-founded, whatever you want to call it, one of the problems you always had was data security and cybersecurity, especially in the recruitment business. I mean, in the early days, when I was getting some advice, they said, well, do you lock your drawers and your office? Like, yeah, that's it then. That's all you need. That's all you need to do to prove you were data secure. But of course, it gets harder and harder, and cloud, and no one would be on Wi-Fi at one point because it wasn't secure enough. But every time you wanted to make sure it was secure, to get it done properly always cost a fortune. And I thought, I had no idea what I was being told, whether I really should be paying this, or whether that was a risk or an exposure. When this guy came and said, look, we want to do a cybersecurity company, I was like, do you know what? If we go with the right ethos and we try and do the right thing, rather than just try and be another company doing the same thing, charging a load of money, if we can do something different and not necessarily disruptive, it'd be great if you can come up with something disruptive. I always remember saying that to them, but it doesn't matter. If we can do something different, then actually our USP is that we genuinely are helping companies, because we're explaining what we're doing, we're making it easy for them to understand, and we're not charging an arm and a leg, then that'd be great. the reason the guy came to me originally was because of the marketing techniques that I was using, that we could reach out to clients and we could sell penetration testing. But penetration testing is one of those things that is very expensive, isn't different to other people are doing it. It can be interesting if you're that sort of techie nerd type of person, but also one of the things I came to realize is that once you've done it, then a week later it's kind of irrelevant because there could be some new threats. It's like a point in time snapshot of your whole environment. But what we talked about was selling this sort of managed service, which I never really quite liked the sound of calling it a managed service, but the idea of what it was great. And in lockdown, we were able to really build on the idea of what it was. And we were able to build it, pull the talent in-house. So we'd have our own techie guys developing it rather than doing it outsourced. And it meant, when we do a penetration test, we can go on site and do it, but we also need contractors. So it took away a lot of that. So what we built was Cybersecurity as a service. The name is brilliant because the company's called Melius, and it's Cybersecurity as a Service, which is CAAS CAS. So we called it Melcas. Perfect. Yeah. So that's been really interesting, and that's where we are now. That's where I am, and it's completely different to anything I've ever done, and it's completely different challenges. Because everything I've ever done when I've been working for myself was in recruitment, whether it was software or recruitment business. So you kind of knew the market. So this is different. And this is what I really want to work, because I am doing something different and I'm not in recruitment again.
So what do you think it is? Is it learning new things or different ways to help people? What is it that you're really passionate about?
Yeah, I thought about this because someone told me what it was once, and I thought about it, and I was like, "Yeah, you might be right." And basically, I love starting up new projects. So even within a business, I need to be moving on and doing something different. So I like starting up sort of entrepreneurial ideas. I like doing things that are different. So we're challenging the marketplace. And I really like working on the strategy and driving it forward, which is why I then want to work on something different within the business or on the business. What I'm not so good at is working in the business, doing the mundane, which, starting a new startup you've got to, which is why I kind of like a startup to become successful quickly so I can get people in to do certain bits and then I can keep building on the strategy and strategy.
Yes, is that you go back to the whole Belbin type stuff. It's that resource investigator type and not necessarily a completer finisher.
Yeah, of course you're a psychologist, aren't you? So
yeah,
you're just
sorry.
highlighting everything I've just said. But that's it. not a complete finisher. Yeah, I need to see quick results and then get someone to take over, right? Build on that. I've got the next thing to do. Yeah. That's probably a good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, this is the role that James and I play. So I love new, shiny, exciting, but I need all things to happen quickly, or I get bored and start something else. And then I start it, get it going, get bored. James picks it up and sort of drags me in it to the end. It's brilliant. Which is the benefit of having a business partner, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. It was interesting when I was told that, and you said exactly the same thing. And the person who told me has studied, she's not a psychologist, but she has studied psychology and kind of said the same thing. So
yeah, well, you need different types to make a team. If it wasn't for people like you and I, Eldon, stuff wouldn't get started, would it?
Exactly.
See?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're just not always there to see it finished.
No, it's like, what else can we do? What's the mischief that we can cause elsewhere? Much to poor James's frustration on occasion.
Well, thinking back to this, there's been a few different pivotal moments. You've moved to London, you've seen different ways of working, different types of sector, sort of things linked to recruitment, then moving into cyber. Are there any other pivotal moments that you think that really stick out in your journey so far?
Well, I think the biggest thing has to be having a son and realizing it's it's that whole thing just comes across you realizing, right, actually, this is no longer about me anymore. Everything I did, I'd spend my money on, waste my money, spend my money, I don't know, enjoy my money on cars, motorbikes, and then you've got this helpless little child to care for. He's not so helpless anymore.
No.
But yeah, I think that's a big change in attitude, that everything suddenly becomes more important, the reason you're doing these things. And yeah, you've got someone to look after and support, and he'll always smile at you and just say, Dad, can I have this? I should really say no, but you're just so cute. Maybe I'll say yes.
That's the problem. It's adorable. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying very hard to say no to him a lot, but
then he's just got these gorgeous big eyes and just yeah,
exactly.
Mine's get to the point where he can almost put the business case together now. So yes, it's great fun, isn't it?
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, yes, indeed.
But looking back, I used to do that too. So.
Probably, yeah.
Cool. So we'll move on now to the quick fire round and ask you some questions that you have not had sight of. So good luck with this bit. James, do you want to take us away?
Question number 1. What are some small pleasures that make you way happier than they should?
Wow, that's a really good question. I bought a BMX for my son the other day, and I could still pull a wheelie on it and do bunny hops. I was quite impressed with myself with that.
That's brilliant. Well done.
Yeah.
Good one.
Silly little things like that it would be.
Cool. Okay, so question number 2. What risks are worth taking?
Right. Well, for me, based around what we've been talking about, the risk that was worth taking was quitting my job in the first place and starting a business up. It's been really hard, and it's not for everyone. And there's times where you thought, oh my gosh, am I going to make this work? And the very first deal I ever closed in my first business, closing it and getting paid were 2 different things. And it was right on the brink of, I've been living on my own savings and potentially running out of money, because I was never good at saving money beforehand. So I didn't have loads to put into it, but it all came good literally on that day, the cutoff point. So I think that is a risk that's definitely worth taking. If it's something you want to do and it's something you can do, go for it.
That's great. Thank you.
And question 3, is intelligence or wisdom more useful?
It's defining what the difference is. I think you need a certain type of intelligence to run a business. Now, I'm dyslexic, and I'm quite seriously dyslexic according to the studies that were carried out on me. It sounds like a lab rat. And I think that sort of intelligence helps, because you see things from a different point of view, and that wouldn't have got me good if I didn't have that. That wouldn't have got me going in the first place. But wisdom is where I was able to do things different later down the line. So what's more important? Is it having the intelligence to be able to get on and do it, or have the wisdom? I don't think I'm very wise. And although I can see the things I've done, if I was able to turn that into wisdom, it would be quite helpful. And maybe if I was more wise and full of wisdom, I'd be even better at what I do. So I'm going to say, for me, it's intelligence, because I'm still lacking in wisdom. But for people who can learn and become wise, that will end up being more important for them in the long run.
That's great. We've asked you some very deep questions, Eldon. We normally ask things like, does pineapple belong on pizza? But we've asked you some really deep ones.
Well, you did ask me one a while ago that was not to do with this. And I thought about it, and the answer is gin and tonic.
Is that the meaning of life?
No, that's 42. If you could have a candle that smelled of something, it would be gin and tonic. But
Without lemon.
would have to be, no, it's more the botanicals in the gin and tonic.
Okay.
So it's not so much the tonic, it's more the gin smell.
I think you can get
But
gin and tonic candles.
You probably can, but they're probably not very good. Because it'd be hard to get that real smell that you need.
Challenge accepted.
If they could also play a sound, which is the bubbles and the glass, the ice moving around in the glass.
Nice and relaxing.
That would bring it up another level.
It's so funny. I went most of my life thinking gin and tonic was horrid, but it turns out I really like gin. I don't like tonic.
All right, excellent.
I didn't find that out till last Christmas. When I realised that, it's like, I quite like gin. We did a Ginspiration North event that you missed, I think, didn't you?
I did miss that.
Yeah, we'll have to do another one.
I would have liked that.
Yeah, but Heppel gin.
Oh, right. Very nice.
Cool. And then the question we ask everybody, if we could get into a DeLorean, go back in time, speak to 18-year-old Eldon, what advice would you give to him?
Well, first off, I would very much like to get into a DeLorean because I think everyone should have a rear engine car. And I think DeLoreans are cool. So I'd like to get one of those one day.
Okay.
And the advice I would give to 18-year-old Eldon is you don't need to go to uni. Now, I didn't actually go to university, but I thought I needed to. So I wasted time trying to get into higher education and doing an HND, which I just wish I'd gone to London earlier and got the same job that I got when I was older, but I wish I'd got it when I was 19. I'd be so much further ahead of the game. So university is great, not knocking that, of course, but it's not for everyone and you don't need it to be successful. So that's what I would tell myself.
That's great advice.
Yeah. So for our listeners, if you want to track Eldon down, as we understand it from all the hundreds of millions of people on LinkedIn, you are the one and only Eldon Jobe on LinkedIn.
That is correct.
So go to LinkedIn, type in Eldon Jobe, you will find him. Unique.
Yes, you are the one
Unless
and
another
only.
one popped up recently, but I have on good authority from LinkedIn themselves that I am the only one.
Congratulations. Cool. Well, it's been awesome chatting with you finally today.
Yeah.
So thank you ever so much.
No, it's been a pleasure. It's been rather enjoyable.
Cool.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.